do that on certain specific things that ordinary citizens don't understand. All they want is to see public money spent prudently. That was quite a low time for us. Of course, delay in constituting of committees and changes in leadership position for majority and minority side. We've had this fight, this particular session on the minority side. For a greater part of last term, we had this particular challenge on the majority side. Mr. Speaker, not a very easy time when people have got to let go of leadership position, Mr. Speaker. Hasn't been an extremely easy time. And perhaps over time, this is a question that Senate need to resolve, because much as it is difficult here in the Senate, more difficult in the county assemblies. And they draw from the experience in the Senate. I know for a fact that there are county assemblies, Mr. Speaker, that up to now, session, just trying to resolve who is a majority leader. And therefore, it's a challenge to us as a House, because we are the protectors and the custodians of devolution. Thinking about this, Mr. Speaker, perhaps either by legislation or provide a clear guidance on how to achieve on the positions of leadership here in the Senate as well as in our county assembly. Of course, failure by governors in the 11th Parliament to honor summons, quite a number, many have been fined. Unfortunately, in the Powers and Privilege Act, we haven't provided for how to, we don't have the mechanism. You know, Parliament and Senate doesn't have, we cannot send our sergeant at arms to go and arrest governors who have refused to show up or have jumped bail, haven't paid their fines. We need to think through and consider that. Of course, removal of senators from office was quite a difficult time for us as well. You remember the case of Senator Mwaura, Senator Professor Kindiki, Wetangula, and Senator Kangata. That was quite a difficult time for us. Of course, delays of processing of Senate bills during the 11th and 12th Parliament. We haven't faced this challenge yet. I have to be optimistically cautious, Mr. Speaker, so that I don't get ahead of myself, because I know how, I've been around fairly long enough to know that when it's all rosy when you're beginning terms of Parliament, but as you get deep and deep into the term, and there are disagreements between both houses, then the urge to withdraw or to ignore the Senate, rather, Mr. Speaker, clicks in. And on those occasions, you find that Senate ends up suffering. Mr. Speaker, finally, just as a way of concluding, and this I have picked randomly, I am just reflecting on colleague senators that we've had the privilege of serving with over the last 10 years, and moments and things that they did that will remain forever etched in the memory or the history of Senate, Mr. Speaker, for those acts have defined us, who we are today and what we shall be in the future. Number one, Mr. Speaker, Senate Speaker Ekwe Ethure. I know for a fact, and I speak like this, Mr. Speaker, because I belong to his side of the political divide, then and even up to now, that part of the reason why he lost his job as Speaker of the Senate, and I don't think this is something that you need to be hearing, Mr. Speaker, is that on many occasions in the 11th Parliament, he was called to defend the position of the Senate against what you'd call, quote unquote, the appointing authority. Some of them extremely powerful, Mr. Speaker. But because he stood firm in defense of this House, unfortunately, he never made it as he would have wished to return as a Speaker of this House. And I know that that's a huge price that he paid, but we continue to celebrate him. I celebrate him each day. He's one of the gentlemen who, when for one reason or the other I bump into him, I bow in honor because of what he did for this institution. During very difficult times, Mr. Speaker, including days when police officers were sent to cordon the House of Parliament. He stopped debate for close to 30 minutes until police officers moved away from Parliament. And of course, you know who had sent police officers then. It's not an easy decision. That seat that you sit on, Mr. Speaker, sometimes calls on you to make very, very difficult decisions in defense of this House, Mr. Speaker. And for that reason, I celebrate Senator Ekwe Ethure. Secondly, the Senator Professor Kindiki served as our first majority leader.